What is going on, my salty home gymmers? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about a company that is a company to watch in 2026. Mark my words, these guys are going to grow in 2026 and you're going to see a lot more of them. I'm talking about a company named Legion Fitness. Now, their machine sitting beside of me, you might notice this machine bears a lot of similarities to a machine from a different company. I'm talking about Tough Stuff. Some of you might remember Tough Stuff. Tough Stuff no longer with us, RIP, but yet still lives on through Legion Fitness. How so, you might ask? Great question. So the founder of Legion Fitness was actually a dealer of Tough Stuff equipment. And when the company went under, he took it upon himself to take the designs that he had a passion for selling and improve upon and modernize them. And he labeled his company Legion Fitness. I should go ahead and note here that although we typically cover a lot of budget home gym stuff, we are not a strictly budget home gym channel, and Legion Fitness is not a budget home gym brand, and I don't think they're claiming to be. But what they are at the end of the day is a home gym brand. But if you're coming to see me, you're probably asking yourself, should I spend this type of money? Is it worth it for a machine like this? Well, now I guess you'll have to stick around and find out. I present to you the first review on YouTube of the Legion Fitness Centurion. So the first thing I'm going to talk about this machine is what I start all my videos with, the assembly. Firstly, create some space for the delivery, because this bad boy comes in 2 huge crates. Now, we are talking about this Centurion Pro after all, so you're going to have 2 boxes, 1 for the Centurion cable system and 2 for the Smith machine that goes on the front. Massive, massive crate here, as you should probably expect. But everything came in great, no scratches, no damage, no nothing. Took about a week's time to get here, so great shipping and great handling. As far as the assembly goes, I honestly was expecting a lot worse. This is a mammoth of a machine after all, but it wasn't terrible. There is a service that is offered by Legion Fitness for assembly, but that just ain't me. Now, I will explain a couple tricky things involving the cable, which is gonna be your toughest part. So first thing I'm gonna tell you is pay attention to the instructions. Don't be afraid to just start putting the cable on, because that's honestly half the battle. After that, your cable will get shorter and shorter, and it'll get easier to distinguish what the leftover pulleys are and where they go. The other thing that I'm going to tell you is the instructions that I received, and this may change later on, I don't know, but the instructions that I received told me to install these big metal black spacers that go on the bottom of your plate stack. These spacers are actually to the Centurion with the 150-pound weight stack, and the one we're reviewing today has a 200-pound weight stack. So do not use those metal spacers at the bottom. One more thing that I just wanted to tell you about installing the cable is make sure your cable's nice and tight. Don't be afraid of it being over tightened just a little bit. You should want just a little bit of over tightness. You want that top plate to just be like a ½ inch up, because what happens is this cable kind of stretches after a little bit. After using it for about a week, it kind of flexes a little, and it'll eventually rest into place once you start using heavier weight. If you want to bypass this, you can go ahead and connect one of your cables on the cable coaster to your row cables at the bottom. Go ahead and put 100 pounds on there and just attach them both and just let it rest on there for a little bit. Now, moving on. This thing stands at a mere 84 inches tall. And if you've seen any of my other videos on racks and other things for the home gym, this is a fairly compact size. I'm about 5'11". I'll stand next to it just so you can get just kind of a size reference. But the main takeaway here is 84 inches clears most ceilings. So for you low ceiling people, this might be the guy for you. And on top of that, it fits nicely snug in a corner. It is a corner rack after all. And I can tell you from just having this guy in here, it's very, very convenient. There's not a whole lot of corner racks being made these days. So I definitely appreciated this one. It fits in the corner really nicely, and honestly, I think companies should make a whole lot more corner racks, quite frankly, because, man, this saves up a ton of space in an already crowded home gym. Now, let me talk about your Smith machine for a minute, because, as I said, this is the Centurion Pro, so we do have a Smith machine, and also, as I said before, this is a corner rack, so conveniently, and quite awesomely, to be honest, my plate horns at the end of my Smith bar pivot inward to fit in that corner even better. So now I don't have to brush my plates up against the wall. I can easily put these guys on the end here because now they're extending towards me rather than away from me. And I just love that, to be honest. Your bar is nice, compact, and quite frankly, really thick. This isn't like barbell size here. This is a lot thicker. And for little guys like me, I kind of appreciate things like that because it digs into my shoulders a lot less on squats, but definitely be expecting a thicker grip on that bar. nice knurling pretty much throughout. And the glide on this thing is just smooth as butter. It has good balance, no tilt. And check this out. I got a little storage space up there for when I'm ready to access my cable and I'm not using my Smith machine. Also, I'll insert here, your Smith bar does double as a pull-up bar when it's in storage mode. Now, I will talk about one obvious elephant in the room. The Smith machine does kind of have a little bit of a tilt, which honestly I thought would affect me a lot more, but not really at all. My squats feel fine with it. I will say the only mild adjustment that it took me a second to get used to is doing a flat bench press on here. After getting used to it a couple sets, I barely noticed it. I actually think it helps a lot more during certain exercises like deadlifts when you are pulling that bar back towards you, and as well as curls when, same concept. And yes, I did test curls on here. I am the guy that did curls on the squat rack because I got to check this stuff out for you guys. You might not have a curl bar. This might end up being your curl bar if you don't have a lot of space. But all in all, it really doesn't affect anything as much as I thought it would. Keep that in mind if you were wondering about that, like I was. I'm going to go ahead and put this bad boy into storage because, my friends, we have got to talk about this cable. Now, you might notice there is just tons of options here for cables. And I'll tell you another thing there's tons of options for is ratios. If you're not familiar with cable ratios, stick around, I'll explain it to you. But right now, what I really want to tell you about is just how incredibly smooth this cable is. This, my friends, is just probably, no, I'm going to just go ahead and say definitely the smoothest cable that I have ever had on my channel. And if you've been following the channel a while, we've had a lot of cables on this channel. This cable is tight, smooth, zero travel. Every time I do an exercise, I feel like the weight is just right on the other side of the pulley. And that is what you want in your cable. You don't need any of the gimmicks to make your cable smooth, because here I have nylon pulleys. My cables, they're not the thickest thing in the world. And I have 8 separate cable attachment points that all operate just absolutely smooth as butter and will for probably a very long time, no matter what weight you're messing with. I also have a very smooth cable coaster on both sides. On my outside cables, I have 15 points of adjustments on both sides. And I feel like right now is a good time to stop here and explain to you these cable ratios. This machine comes with 3 separate cable ratios that are interchangeable. So what is a cable ratio, you might ask? A cable ratio is basically the amount of weight you're gonna feel when you put on your cable. And I know what you're thinking, well, I selected 20 pounds, why wouldn't I just feel 20 pounds? Well, all machines aren't created equally. This machine can basically do all of the common cable ratios. One of them is your 1-to-1 ratio, which basically is your true ratio. 1-to-1 ratio means you're gonna feel 100% of the weight that you select to exercise with. This machine also has a 2-to-1 ratio. 2-to-1 ratio means you're going to feel about half the weight that you select to exercise with. So if I select 20 pounds on my weight stack, if I'm at a 2-to-1 ratio, I only feel about 10 pounds. And then this machine also has a 4-to-1 ratio. I'm sure you can figure this one out for yourself, but 4-to-1 ratio means you're gonna feel about 25% of the weight that you put on your cable. Meaning if you select 20 pounds, you're only gonna feel about 5 pounds. Now, there's lots of different benefits and downsides to this, but that is why this machine comes with pretty much all of them. So everything works for you. Let me explain a little bit of that right now. And what would be a great place to start is a cable we already talked about, your outside cables here, which are commonly used for cable crossovers and things like that. So you might notice 2 cables poking out of here. I am operating at a 4-to-1 ratio. That means right now I have 20 pounds selected and I'm feeling only 5 pounds. And not only that, now my cable stretches, well, pretty much across my entire gym. So I can do any exercise possible that I want with this guy. That's how far I'm stretching here. However, when I hook these 2 bad boys together, they create a 2-to-1 ratio, which is probably the best ratio for things like cable crossovers. Now, with a 2-to-1 ratio, I have 20 pounds selected and I'm now feeling 10 pounds. And with that, my cable, although stretches pretty far, doesn't quite stretch as far as my 4-to-1 ratio. Now let's take a look at some other cables on this machine. As you may have already noticed, I have a pull-down cable, which is both of these guys right here. Both these guys and my cable down here at the bottom, which I'm just gonna call my low cable or my row cable because that's what you're gonna be using it for mainly. they all operate individually on a 2-to-1 ratio. But when you combine them together, they form a 1-to-1 ratio. I am feeling the full amount of the weight that I have selected. And this is about how far I can pull my 1-to-1 ratio. And same thing here down bottom with my low cable, which has a little connector piece in it. You can interchange it for the top and the bottom. But you might be saying, why is this impressive? Why is this important? Well, because we got a 200-pound weight stack here. 200 pounds. And if you're the big beefer, you want to take advantage of every single pound and make it count. These ratios are important so that you don't max out your stack. And these ratios are important because those lighter weights need to feel a little smoother on those 2-to-1, 4-to-1 ratios when you're doing things like cable crossovers. And now your adjustments can be much more incremental if you want them to be. But you also don't want those lightweight ratios when you're doing things like lat pull downs where you want 100% of that weight, because if you're the big beefer, you might max out that weight stack at 200 pounds with only a 2-to-1 ratio on your lat pull down, because that means you can only get 100 pounds total of your weight stack. So everything on this machine just lets you take advantage of that plate stack. And not only that, I just have multiple options to do everything on this machine. I have multiple spots to do whatever I feel like works the best on here. And your attachments are really nice too. And they are back here on like I don't know what to call it. They're back here on pretty much a Lazy Susan. You know what? That's what I'm going to call it now. My attachment Lazy Susan. It comes with a press bar, which attaches to both cables, a lat pull down bar. I'm just going to break this one out for you and just tell you that this thing is just super freaking wide. And not only wide, but it's super thick too. I am going to say this. Your carabiners for your cables are very, very small. And they are just kind of a pain to get on this lat pull down bar. So I did go ahead and place my top carabiners with bigger and thinner ones. And I'm probably going to do it for the rest of the machine. But that's just pretty much, you know, a couple of bucks you got to spend on carabiners if, in fact, you feel the same way I do when you receive this machine. I'm going to talk about my other attachment right here, which is my curl bar, which is also just a big, beefy, good knurling feeling bar. And I have 4 separate handles for my cables, which all just are nice and grippy. I mean, it's hard to mess up handles, huh? And I have my kickback attachment. Every machine that I review with a cable on it, someone always in the comments asks me, can it do kickbacks? Yes, this machine can do kickbacks. With a machine like this, I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to just have so many attachments floating around and that you're probably going to get for this machine. You're just going to come up with so many ways to utilize this in your own way. For instance, I've already started using my Smith bar as a leg brace for my lat pull down, but you're just going to come up with so many ways to exercise on this thing. To be honest with you, this thing back here might not even matter after consistently using it a few months, but it is really, really freaking cool. I mean, look at that. It spins. Now, what else is there to say about this rack? I'm sure you're going to have more questions that I've answered in this video. Sometimes it's hard to condense all this information into 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever we're running at here. I suppose the main question you might have is this machine worth the price? This machine's going to be around a long time and it's going to last you a long time. It's honestly just a beast of a machine and one of my favorite pieces I've probably had in this gym so far. And it's also built really, really durable. Wanted to touch on some of the quality here. Like your plate stacks, they operate on 2 guide rods, obviously, as most plate stacks do. But your guide rods are thick, well-made, polished steel. And the reason why that's important is I've had like really expensive machines in here that the guide rods were just hollow, which is fine. They operate normally, but the longevity is just not gonna last you as long as this cable system is. And little things like that are just all around in this machine. The metals here in general are just really, really thick, good steel. So I think this is just a machine that's gonna last you a really long time and you're just never gonna run out of stuff to do on this freaking thing. It is just so incredibly versatile. And if you couldn't tell by now, this is absolutely a machine that I'm gonna recommend. I'm gonna give a thumbs up to. To be honest with you, this one's getting 2 thumbs up. Man, I just like this thing. I think Legion Fitness is really onto something here with taking these old inspirations and just modernizing them and making these improvements. As I said before, I think you're just gonna be hearing a ton about Legion Fitness in the year 2026. Once again, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.